So last time I went over a good chunk of the most infamous fake image and video leaks or whatever, but there's only a finite amount of those. Dumb theories and rumors on the other hand? Yeah, you know that faucets leak until the sun swallows the earth. But goddamn, there were sure a few hoaxes I missed, so yeah, here we go again with this, baby. Hey, the two misconceptions I had here weren't even to do with any of the hoaxes, it was two of the dumbest theories instead. First, the whole the animatronics are screaming freedom thing apparently had to reverse or slow down the jump scare noise to hear it. I don't remember, but to be honest, either way, it was a stretch even at the time. And the whole reversed trailer audio thing, I'm just stupid. The suicide didn't work thing came from the sister location trailer, not Freddy's 2. One hoax I just forgot about was a Tater the Waiter Gator. Again, just like Kanji the Cat, this was another case of a harmless fan animatronic taken and passed off as real. Nothing substantial to say about this one though. Surprisingly enough though, this was posted on January 5th. Months after the release of the second game, so how anyone fell for this is beyond me. You know what, fair enough, I left out some of the more iconic players here. Chrome Freddy that I intentionally left out of the last video because I thought he was meant to be a joke hoax, but nope, apparently people actually believed it. Alright. There were two fan-made trailers that really seemed to grab people's attention, with 15 and 5 million views respectively, the first of which took place in a mall shopping centre, and focused on free roam, something people were dying for in a Five Nights at Freddy's 3 at the time. And given the general rumours around that time giving light to the idea of a free roam third game, yeah, people went nuts for this thing. It looks darker, edgier, and unlike anything the previous two games had to offer. It's simple. You offer a ridiculous amount of low-poly dead bodies and blood smears, you have yourself a cult following. The latter featured the infamous Draw Kill animatronics, a redesign of the 4 main Freddy's robots that screams I'm 14 and this is the pinnacle of character design. I kid, this trailer in particular didn't seem to try and fool anyone, just a reimagining of the classic FNaF formula. Yeah, it was another free roam concept. You know what though, those original cyberpunk draw kill designs looked quite a fair bit different in the original concept art. Arguably way cooler looking, not so overkill. Unfortunately, a lot of the more subtle design choices were lost. Take the oversized eyes and larger pelvises for instance. It'd be cool to see those corrected and the models entirely remade someday, you know, looking a little closer to Draw Kill's original visions. Another one I missed was the evolution of this worker art. It's practically the same concept, except worked into Springtrap to form Spring Purple Guy? Yeah, this wasn't as much of a hoax, I think, as much as it was a pretty strange, like, reverse Springtrap or whatever. Anyway, people made a few variations of it, and it dissipated pretty quickly. No, wait. Does this count? Funtime Chica, again, not an intentional hoax, but people complained that I didn't bring it up, so here she is. Of course, the whole suicide didn't work thing was supposedly something when the trailer audio was reversed. Yeah, I'm sure it was. Oh, and finally, yeah, I was right. Apparently it was confirmed by a Funko employee on Instagram a while back that, yeah, this is Dark's ring chap. Why Scott decided to take him aside and turn him into a separate canonical character? I couldn't tell you. This game had hoaxes? Yeah, one hoax apparently. This kid in a foxy mask was JPEG'd to hell and back and passed off as the true identity of the entity, later revealed to be Malhair mentioned in the tapes. This was one of those rare early bird hoaxes similar to Nightmare JJ, and reportedly fooled a few people. Finally, I know some people complained that I didn't include anything for FNaF World. That game had hoaxes? Alright, so goddamn, that should be it. I don't doubt that there's probably one or two hoaxes that I've still missed, but you gotta understand, you and I probably had different levels of exposure to whatever hoax or fake leak I missed, so don't get mad at me, alright? Let's be real, I'm gonna have to make a second follow-up, aren't I? Hey, anyway, rumors, that's the focal point of this video. Like I mentioned, there are a hell of a lot more rumors than there are hoaxes, so yeah, I'm not going to go over every one, at least in this video. If there's any I miss, I'm sure I will be let known. Oh, and also theories and rumors that I already covered in the last video, I'm not going to cover in this video. Yeah. Where do I start? This thing was right for the strangest conspiracies. Nobody knew what the bitch this thing even was at the time. 5 Nights at what now? To get it out of the way, I'll kick this off with game theory. I know the guy's made like friggin' 37 FNaF theories at this point. I'm only talking about one of them, alright? Sue me. I remember this theory sounding pretty damn plausible back in the day, and to have someone like Matt Park cover this small little indie game with a solid theory was really cool to see. And that's all I'm saying about game theory. Moving on. Of course, a lot of people had their theories on the story of this game. Newspaper clippings and phone calls implied all sorts. But when it came down to it, I think most people grasped that there were 5 dead kids, 1 killer, 5 suits, kids are in the suits. Man, the story was so much simpler. So with a pretty unanimous agreement on how things were, people just had to come up with other far cooler ways to introduce just the most interesting theories. Theories like the cupcake blinking occasionally, Foxy being a good guy checking up on you but is sudden bursting into the office giving you a heart attack. That's fun. People thought Freddy was female. If you speed up his laugh, the voice sample is clearly a young girl's voice, and he hides in the girls' toilets on Cam 7. People thought Bonnie was a girl. Well, okay, Bonnie is typically a girl's name. That one's more forgivable. Fun guy having been stuffed inside Chica, fun guy being the killer, fun guy being Golden Freddy. It doesn't end, mate. Yeah, most of the theories here were what I like to refer to as novelty theories. They exist only for getting a reaction out of the reader. I hope. The one big theory that sorta ended up half correct was the idea that Golden Freddy caused the bite of 87. And while not specifically the bite of 87, it sorta paid off. It's not like it wasn't implied by Scott's own hands though, the whole summoning Golden Freddy with 1987 and Custom Night thing. To be fair though, to my knowledge, that Easter egg wasn't added until after people said it was a thing. This is your fault. Speaking of Golden Freddy, that was actually a fan-given name adopted as quickly as in FNaF 2. In the game files, he's referred to only as Yellow Bear. So that's also your fault. There was also a rumor floating around that Freddy would jump scare you if you pirated the game. Yeah, that'll teach him. One of the biggest topics of discussion was definitely the joy of creation, a misheard quote deciphered from the 95 phone call. The audio on the call is a reading of an excerpt from the autobiography of a yogi. People try connecting this to the whole haunted animatronics concept, especially as the book talks about how machinery and human life are related, or how they work in unison or whatever. The actual quote reads, "You are right. Countless uses will be made by future generations. The scientist seldom knows contemporaneous reward. It is enough to possess the joy of creative service." But that didn't stop the joy of creation going on to inspire the name of some of the most iconic Five Nights at Freddy's fan games of all time. Whoops. And finally, to top it off, CD Plus, baby, woo! Yeah, I don't remember too much about this, but holy shit, was it a topic of discussion and a half. Holding CD and Plus on your numpad during any point in gameplay pushed you to the end of the night, supposedly. Oh hey, what do you know? Yeah, it turns out this was a legitimate thing that existed, and to my knowledge, it's still something you can pull off to this day. If you're a dirty ass cheater dickweed. Anyway, I think that's most of the biggest ones. On to... Okay, I'm gonna do everyone a favor and ignore most of the lore-related theories from here on out. The first game had minimal story to go off of, so most points were discovered and agreed upon for the most part. I don't want to touch the story at all from here on out, unless it's some big substantial theory or whatever, otherwise this video will be friggin' hours long. One of the earliest batch of theories surrounded the names of all these new characters, most notably the toy animatronics being referred to simply as Freddy 2.0, Bonnie 2.0, Chica 2.0, yeah. Of course you have people referring to the puppets as the marionettes as early on as that very first teaser. The canonicity of that name is still debatable. Even the withered prefix for the beat-up original cast of characters was originally just a headcanon. Yeah, not once is the word withered actually ever mentioned in this game. Come to think of it, how many characters in this game didn't get their name from fan input? Answer, friggin' only 6 of them. 5 if you want to count fans assuming BB was short for Balloon Boy. The Withered Shadows puppet, debatable, and Balloon Boy, debatable. Yeah, they were either named something fairly different or just lacked a name of any kind. Also, pretty much everybody figured Freddy's 2 was a sequel, you know, the way numbers do the thing they do. Be consecutive. But despite one of the most telling signs, that being the resurrection of the murdered phone guy, yeah, most people assume this took place sometime after the first game. Okay, so for post-release theories, the whole Mangle debacle, yeah, a lot of people thought they could decipher the voices in the static when they were in the office, some claiming she was calling the police, others claiming she was reporting the bite of 87, with voices supposedly talking about a boy missing his frontal lobe. To be fair, there was quite a bit of evidence pointing towards that. Mangle's jaw was always hanging open, Foxy was always suspect to have caused the bite of 87 in the first game, and this really was the first time we got any potential pointers to the true suspect. I wish I could say that nearly 6 years later, we could 100% debunk or confirm this. We can't. Also, that shit about Mangle's gender that still hasn't been resolved to this day just got cool, okay, time to get a little stupid. People thought there was something inside Balloon Boy here, it's his shadow. People thought Withered Bonnie had a human skull in his endoskeleton head. People thought that the Living Tombstone was in cahoots with Scott Cawthon and that his Freddy's 2 song was canon, which indirectly reinforced the puppet is the crying child's mother theory. People thought the FNaF subreddit moderators were in cahoots with Scott Cawthon and hid secret messages in the subreddit banner. People thought CD Plus would work again. Oh, son of a bitch. Moving on to those death minigames, yeah, Purple Guy, what an asshole, right fellas? Of course, the most popular theory with this aubergine mofo was that this was a phone and that this was a phone guy. People finally had their grimy mitts on that sweet bit of evidence, further suggesting that plot twist, the phone guy was the killer, which we now know isn't the case. Duh, but I gotta hand it to them. People really came up with all sorts of creative ideas for what the piss this thing was. But then Scott made the super awesome decision to give the same character an entirely different sprite in the Foxy minigame, which led to theories of a completely separate pink guy. Haha, so funny, such a funny guy. Scott Cawthon's so funny, he's so funny. So you'd assume a game centered around a rotting zombie rabbit inside a horror attraction would bring out a plethora of reasonable assumptions, right? This teaser here was the first look at the new game. Of course, nobody knew what this thing was, except of course everybody knew what this thing was. It was Fredbear. Spoiler, no. Well, okay, reasonably enough, the only yellow characters who appear in the franchise thus far would have been the few iterations of both Golden Freddy and Chica respectively, and unless this was some variant of Chica, dear God, most people, myself included, assumes the former. Also, keyword most, a small minority of people genuinely believed this to be a Golden Foxy, which, So hey, once the trailer dropped and we watched this dickhead sporadically convulse on the ground before casually wandering up to the player, well, technically, yeah, thankfully most people understood how garbage that nickname was, so until Springtrap's name was revealed through a Steam update post, I'm not joking, people referred to this dude as Salvage, which is, you know, surprisingly fitting and is actually somewhat accurate, arguably even more so than his official name. However, that didn't stop people from A, ignoring the fan-given name Salvage and naming him Hybrid for whatever reason, and B, assuming that he would build an animatronic using busted robot parts taken from the box in your office to go after you. Now, naming the guy Hybrid, or assuming that he was a hybrid of all of the animatronics? Huh, I never understood this theory. I mean, when all you could see was the portion of the head, fine, but this is clearly a proportionally balanced rabbit shit, so no excuses for that. I'm guessing some people might have meant it more figuratively, with this thing being an amalgam of all the classic animatronics, sparing the physical form of Bonnie, the yellow of Chica, something like that. However, people did reasonably assume that he would in fact build an animatronic from the box of parts. I mean, how cool would that have been? I have no idea because it didn't happen. Anyway, most of the speculation took place before the game released. There was not much post-release. I mean, unless you want to count the people that thought holding CD and Plus would skip the night. What a silly rumor, of course it doesn't work. Yeah, I'm not kidding, it was finally taken out in FNaF 3. But hey, speaking of that stupid-ass code, it still retained relevance thanks to this stupid-ass teaser. I remember this dropping for pretty much no reason. It was right before the game itself released and featured Phantom Balloon Boy alongside A10, which we never learned the significance of. But oh, what's that? CD Plus on BB's hat? Oh, great. Of course, this was nothing but a coincidence, but good golly did people drive it into the ground that it had some sort of significance. Well, most people assumed it would take place in some kind of nightmare sequence, or at Fredbear's family diner. They were right. Okay, pretty much in parallel with the fall of those whack-ass hoaxes, the more out-there theories took a plummet around FNaF 4 too, and pretty suddenly I might add. While people had all sorts of theories about this game's place in the timeline and a ton of friggin' questions over a lot of lore-related stuff, the more crazy, wild shit that the previous 3 games saw fans vomit up was really nowhere to be found, aside from the fact that people thought that Dream Theory was a thing. Okay. Yeah, that's a whole bucket of worms I'm not touching, and say what you like about what was originally intended or whatever, but yeah. Nah. Of course though, that wasn't nearly as bad as this stupid sodding thing. What's in this thing, you 5 years ago may have asked? Well hey, all you had to do was click on the locks in a specific order and a specific number of times, probably. Just keep trying, man, you'll get there eventually. Yeah, I can make a whole friggin' video on this. People thought the puppet, the crying child, my leftover Nandos, anything and everything was shoved into this quantum shoebox. Yeah, like I mentioned, most of the theories from here on out concerns the lore. Okay, spin-off time for a whole new batch of some really cool speculations to roll in. Kicking things off with a bang, we have adult theory. Yeah, that was a thing that caught the attention of Scott himself and literally encouraged him to post a teaser instantly deconfirming any of that. Now okay, there's a lot more to it than that, but I do not want to discuss it. Moving swiftly on. On the opposite ends of the spectrum, we had the quote-unquote Fazbunker theory, where people took the Deep Below Ground excerpt from the Sister Location trailer and ran with it, to the point of making the claim that you would be residing in a nuclear fallout bunker during an apocalypse, stuck under the earth with the Funtime animatronics. Allegedly, this was also backed by the claim that the sirens heard in the trailer are nuclear attack alarms. Well hey, what can I say? It's the only logical step in the story after a series of serial murderers throw the killer robots into a nuclear apocalypse, why not? Speaking of, people thought that Ennard was some kind of octopus spaghetti monster thing that controlled each of the animatronics. Maybe. One theory that was actually fairly plausible was the idea that the springlock suit you're trapped in on night 4 is some kind of Chica suit. In the source code of Scott's website in the lead up to the game's release, an abbreviation of Chica's Party World appeared, spawning the belief of some previously unheard of establishment featuring Chica. This was 2016, we still don't know what the hell this was, but that's besides the point. So people kind of assumes that you put 2 and 2 together, hey, the totally irrelevant character still hardly bears lore relevance, but hey, cool to speculate, right? Of course, those DLC cutscenes sparks the whole mic trap / world trap debate after Scott failed to confirm whether this vague looking purple character was the same vague looking purple character that already had several very different looking specs to represent him. He wasn't. Also, it totally didn't help that having Springtrap's voice slowed down at the end of Sister Location's final custom night cutscene made him sound all robotic, leading people to believe that it was Michael speaking through Ennard's voice box inside Springtrap. Russian doll looking ass, but hey, that's debunked, innit? Scott made a comment on a game theory video and yeah, people weren't too happy knowing that it wasn't a retcon after all. Scott just decided to wait a year and a half to clear up a misconception that could have been avoided entirely. What else? People thought that the very first full teaser for the game was Toy Bonnie with some unique interpretations to go by, that the puppet was supposedly in a reflection in the trailer right here. Also, people thought that Valora contains the soul of William Afton's dead wife, I don't know. This entry in particular was particularly difficult to make any assumptions over, as up until its release, it was totally shrouded in mystery. Yeah, Scott was fairly cagey with this one for a long while, with the only tangible teasers being this silhouette of what we could only assume to be a redesign of Circus Baby of some sort, a Freddy Fazbear plush with strings in the backdrop, and this minigame style teaser. The posters and backgrounds of the former led people to believe that the new game would take place at a freak show, supposedly featuring twisted and mangled versions of the animatronics from Sister Location, prompting the idea of this being a direct sequel to that game. They were half right. The Freddy plush strings teaser was fairly confusing at the time, but in hindsight is very cool. The minigame teaser, on the other hand, yeah, this was totally meaningless. People thought it had something to do with the FNaF 2 minigames, I don't know. Things picked up for Sister Location, but hot damn did entertaining speculation start to thin out from here. Ergo, most of the theories for this thing tended to piggyback off that Sister Location Springtrap cutscene. The I'm going to come find you line sparked the idea for some people that you'd be tasked with tracking down William Afton in some kind of special facility or something. But it's impossible to talk about this game without mention of the redesigned robots, and while people didn't seem to care for the majority of them, Springtrap or Scraptrap struck a nerve with people. People either accepted this as a total redesign or theorized that William Afton climbed out of the Springtrap suit, wandered around for a while like the sentient pepperami he is, and suited up into a slightly different looking decaying spring bodysuit. And he grew bones because, let's face it, you can't have a franchise villain without the ability to bend physics to suit his appearance. The only truly significant theory to come out of this thing was Mike Hell vs. Will Hell, an ongoing debate that attempted to figure out if Ultima Customite is really just, you know, one of two dudes' own personal hell, an endless cycle of fighting against the same animatronics over and over and over again, reliving the nightmare that, in Mike's case, he would have lived, and in William's case, would have created. But otherwise, were there any stupid-ass theories to take the piss out of? Hell no. Yeah, I think we've kind of reached a point now where it's less about coming up with wacky solutions to totally open-ended questions, rather focusing on how to fit any of the pre-existing lore together. Yeah, how's that been going? I doubt we'll see the theories of yesteryear ever return, after all 99% of them are garbage. But hey, it's hard not to think back to the days of Foxy as a good guy and not think, huh, that was funny to consider believing for about 10 seconds. Now, having that all said and done, is there anything I might have missed? Yes, definitely. Like I mentioned in the intro, it's inevitable that I'm gonna miss something. Like, it's gonna happen. But I'm not perfect, nor do I want to shove every conceivable theory possible into this video. And I know some people are gonna complain, hey, you didn't mention that time my mate told me that Fredbear has a urinary tract infection. Like, it's impossible for me to cover everything. But to the people eager to see me put together a potential feature part to this where I cover everything I missed, and to the people complaining that they want these videos out faster, just CD plus that bitch, it probably works. So, yeah. FNaF rumors, they're crazy, man. Whoa. I think for the most part, the retro theories are gone, but hey, with the release of Help Wanted and Special Delivery, I feel like they're ushering in a new era of FNaF games, less so focused on the history of the restaurants themselves or the Afton family, rather delving into a brand new story with the previous games as a basis. And hey, maybe we'll finally get everything we ever wanted back in the FNaF 2 days, and holy shit, is that a shopping mall?